Joe had always been a curious person. He loved exploring old and abandoned places, searching for hidden secrets and untold stories. One day, as he was walking through his neighborhood, he noticed an old house with a for sale sign. The house looked rundown, with overgrown bushes and a decaying front porch. However, what caught Joe's attention the most was the basement entrance. It was slightly ajar, inviting him to uncover its mysteries. Unable to resist the allure, Joe approached the house and cautiously pushed the door open. The air was heavy and filled with a musty smell, as if no one had set foot in the basement for years. The steps creaked under his weight as he descended into the darkness, armed only with a flashlight. As Joe explored the basement, he noticed strange symbols etched into the walls. They seemed ancient and unfamiliar, sending shivers down his spine. The dim light cast eerie shadows on the floor, heightening his sense of unease. But Joe's curiosity propelled him forward, deeper into the unknown. In one corner, Joe discovered a collection of old photographs scattered on a dusty table. As he picked them up one by one, he realized they were all portraits of people. Their expressions were hauntingly sad, as if they were trapped in their own sorrow. Joe couldn't shake off the feeling that there was something profoundly disturbing about those pictures. Just as he was about to leave, Joe noticed a peculiar door tucked away in the far corner of the basement. It was unlike any other door he had ever seen, with intricate carvings and a sense of foreboding surrounding it. Against his better judgment, Joe reached out and turned the doorknob. The door creaked open, revealing a small chamber beyond. Inside, Joe discovered an old journal resting on a wooden pedestal. Its pages were yellowed with age, and the handwriting was barely legible. As he flipped through the entries, he uncovered a chilling tale of tragedy and darkness that seemed to be tied to the house and its basement. Joe's heart raced as he read about a series of disappearances in the neighborhood, all linked to the house he was in. The journal spoke of a malevolent presence lurking within the basement, feeding off the pain and suffering of those who entered. It seemed that anyone who ventured into the basement never returned, forever trapped in its clutches. Filled with a mix of fear and determination, Joe knew he had to uncover the truth behind the basement's sinister secret. He closed the journal, tucked it under his arm, and prepared himself for the next chapter of this terrifying tale. Joe's mind was consumed by a whirlwind of thoughts and questions. Who had written the journal? What had happened to those who had disappeared? And most importantly, could he escape the clutches of the malevolent presence lurking in the basement? Armed with the journal, Joe returned to the basement, determined to find answers. He retraced his steps, carefully examining the symbols on the walls and comparing them to the descriptions in the journal. They seemed to be ancient symbols of protection, as if someone had tried to ward off the evil that resided within. As he ventured deeper into the basement, Joe's senses heightened. He became acutely aware of the oppressive atmosphere, as if the air itself was filled with an invisible malevolence. The flickering light from his flashlight cast eerie shadows on the walls, intensifying the feeling of being watched. In a hidden corner, obscured by cobwebs and darkness, Joe stumbled upon an old wooden chest. It was locked, but a small key nestled among the dust nearby caught his eye. With trembling hands, he picked up the key and tried it in the lock. To his surprise, it fit perfectly, and the chest creaked open. Inside, Joe discovered a collection of personal belongings: a worn-out diary, a locket with a faded photograph, and a stack of letters tied with a tattered ribbon. These items seemed to belong to the people whose portraits he had found earlier. Joe's heart sank as he realized the fate that had befallen them. The diary chronicled the experiences of a woman named Emily, who had lived in the house many years ago. It spoke of her growing despair, her futile attempts to escape the clutches of the basement, and her ultimate disappearance. The letters were heartbreaking pleas for help from family and friends who had lost their loved ones to the insidious darkness. Driven by a newfound determination, Joe made a connection between the symbols, the journal, and the personal belongings. He started to piece together a plan, hoping that by following the ancient symbols of protection and understanding the experiences of those who had been trapped, he could break free from the clutches of the malevolent presence. Night after night, Joe returned to the basement, meticulously recreating the symbols on the walls, reciting ancient incantations, and channeling his will to overcome the darkness. Each step was fraught with tension, as if the evil entity was fighting back, trying to keep its hold on the basement. Days turned into weeks, and Joe's physical and mental strength waned, but he refused to give up. He was determined to bring an end to the cycle of suffering and set free the souls trapped within the basement's clutches. Finally, on a moonlit night, as Joe completed the final symbol, a blinding light erupted from the basement. The ground shook, and an otherworldly howl filled the air. Joe shielded his eyes as the basement seemed to collapse in on itself, as if the darkness was being sucked away, leaving only emptiness behind. As the dust settled, Joe cautiously stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. To his amazement, the basement was no longer a place of horror and despair. It was now an ordinary, empty space, cleansed of the malevolence that had plagued it for so long. Joe knew he had succeeded. The trapped souls had been released, and the basement was no longer a place of eternal suffering. A sense of relief washed over him as he realized that his curiosity and determination had brought an end to a long-standing nightmare. But Joe also knew that he had been forever changed by the experience. He had delved into the darkest corners of human existence, confronting evil head-on and emerging triumphant. The memories of the basement would forever be etched in his mind, a constant reminder of the power of perseverance and the indomitable spirit of the human soul. Joe stood there, in the now empty basement, a mix of emotions swirling within him. Relief, triumph, and a lingering sense of unease all mingled together. He knew he had accomplished something remarkable, freeing the trapped souls and dispelling the malevolence that had plagued the house for so long. But the weight of the experience bore heavily on him. As he made his way back up the creaky basement steps, Joe's thoughts drifted to the aftermath of his discovery. What would become of the house now that its dark secret had been revealed? Would it be demolished, or would someone else unwittingly fall victim to its haunting past? These questions gnawed at him, urging him to take action. Determined to prevent further tragedies, Joe decided to share his findings with the local authorities. He carefully gathered the journal, the personal belongings, and any evidence he could find to support his claims. With a sense of purpose, he made his way to the police station, his mind filled with a newfound sense of responsibility. At the station, Joe was met with skeptical glances and raised eyebrows. Understandably, his tale of a malevolent presence and trapped souls seemed far-fetched and difficult to believe. Nevertheless, he persisted, presenting the evidence he had collected and urging them to investigate further. After much deliberation, the police agreed to look into the matter, albeit reluctantly. Joe couldn't help but feel a sense of frustration, as if his efforts were being dismissed. However, he knew he had done everything within his power to bring the truth to light. Days turned into weeks, and Joe anxiously awaited any news from the investigation. Doubts crept into his mind. Had he done enough? Would the authorities take his claims seriously? The weight of uncertainty began to take its toll on him, and he found himself revisiting the basement in his dreams, haunted by the specters of the past. Finally, one evening, Joe received a phone call from a detective involved in the investigation. The voice on the other end was somber yet grateful. The detective informed Joe that, based on his evidence and the testimonies of the families affected, they had uncovered a dark history tied to the house and its basement. Joe listened intently as the detective explained that the house had been the site of a series of unsolved disappearances spanning decades. The malevolent presence that had plagued the basement seemed to feed off the anguish and pain of its victims, trapping their souls within its depths. Thanks to Joe's intervention, the truth had come to light. The authorities were planning to take further action, including securing the property and conducting a thorough investigation. The detective expressed his gratitude for Joe's bravery and determination, acknowledging that without his efforts, the darkness of the basement would have remained hidden. A sense of closure washed over Joe as he hung up the phone. The weight that had burdened him for so long began to lift. He knew that he had made a difference, not only in the lives of the trapped souls, but also in the lives of the families who had lost their loved ones. From that day forward, Joe continued his explorations, but with a newfound purpose. He sought out forgotten places and untold stories, not only for the thrill of discovery, but also to shed light on the darkness that lurked beneath the surface. His experiences in the basement had transformed him into a seeker of truth, a guardian against the shadows. As Joe closed this chapter of his life, he couldn't help but wonder about the nature of evil and the resilience of the human spirit. The basement would forever remain a haunting memory, a reminder of the depths of darkness that exist in the world. But it would also serve as a testament to the power of courage and the capacity for redemption. And so, armed with the lessons learned from the basement, Joe embarked on a new journey. A journey to uncover the hidden stories that lay beneath the surface, to shine a light on the forgotten and the forsaken, and to ensure that no place, no matter how eerie, would remain trapped in eternal darkness. Valerio sat alone in the dimly lit basement, surrounded by stacks of old boxes and musty furniture. The air was heavy with an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional creaking of the floorboards above. He had always been curious about the basement, but his parents had strictly forbidden him from entering it. However, tonight he couldn't resist the temptation any longer. It all started when Valerio stumbled upon an old key hidden among his father's belongings. The key was rusty and mysterious, and it felt like a sign, beckoning him to explore the forbidden depths below his home. As he held the key in his trembling hands, he knew he had to unlock the secrets that lay hidden in the basement. With a mixture of excitement and trepidation, Valerio descended the creaking wooden staircase leading to the basement. Each step echoed through the empty space, making his heart race faster. As he reached the bottom, he noticed an old wooden door covered in layers of dust and cobwebs. The key fit perfectly into the lock, as if it had been waiting for this very moment. Valerio turned the key and slowly pushed open the door. A musty smell filled the air, and he could feel a chill crawl up his spine. The basement stretched out before him, a labyrinth of dark corridors and hidden rooms. He cautiously stepped forward, his footsteps echoing in the cold silence. As Valerio ventured deeper into the basement, he discovered an array of peculiar items: antique dolls with empty eyes, cracked mirrors reflecting distorted images, and faded photographs of people he didn't recognize. Each room he entered held a new mystery, a puzzle waiting to be solved. With each passing moment, Valerio's fascination grew stronger, overshadowing his initial fear. He couldn't help but wonder why his parents had kept this secret from him. What were they hiding? What stories did these forgotten rooms hold? Lost in his thoughts, Valerio was startled by a sudden noise behind him. He turned around, only to find an old record player playing a haunting melody. The music echoed through the basement, sending shivers down his spine. He followed the sound, tracing it back to a small room tucked away in a corner. Inside, he found a dusty desk covered in yellowed papers. As he examined them, he realized they were letters addressed to his parents, written by someone named Elena. The letters spoke of love, loss, and a deep secret that had been buried within the basement for years. Valerio's heart pounded in his chest as he pieced together the fragments of the story. He had stumbled upon a hidden chapter of his family's history, a tale of forbidden love and tragic consequences. The basement held the key to unlocking the secrets that had haunted his family for generations. But as Valerio stood there, the basement suddenly grew darker, and a chilling wind swept through the corridors. The record player screeched to a halt, and the room fell silent. Valerio felt a presence, an invisible force that seemed to watch his every move. What would Valerio uncover as he delved deeper into the secrets of the basement? And would he be prepared for the terrifying truth that awaited him? Valerio's heart raced as he stood there, enveloped in the eerie silence of the basement. The weight of the secrets he had uncovered pressed upon him, urging him to continue his search for the truth. Determined, he took a deep breath, bracing himself for what lay ahead. As Valerio ventured further into the basement, the air grew colder, and an unsettling presence seemed to follow his every step. Shadows danced on the walls, whispering secrets that he couldn't decipher. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, that the basement itself held a malevolent force. With each room he explored, Valerio uncovered more clues about his family's hidden past. Photographs revealed the faces of unknown relatives, their expressions haunted and melancholic. Journal entries hinted at tragic events and a sense of impending doom. The basement seemed to hold a dark history, one that had remained buried for far too long. One evening, while examining a worn-out diary in a dimly lit corner, Valerio stumbled upon a passage that sent chills down his spine. It spoke of a curse that had plagued his family for generations. According to the diary, anyone who delved too deeply into the secrets of the basement would be forever trapped within its walls, bound to the darkness for eternity. Fear gripped Valerio's heart, but his thirst for answers outweighed his dread. He couldn't abandon his quest now, not when he was so close to uncovering the truth. He had to face the curse head-on and break the cycle that had tormented his family. As he pressed forward, Valerio entered a hidden chamber, tucked away behind a hidden door. The room was filled with strange artifacts, a collection of ancient books, peculiar symbols etched into the walls, and a weathered journal lying open on a pedestal. The journal appeared to be the final piece of the puzzle, the key to understanding the darkness that loomed over the basement. Valerio's hands trembled as he reached for the journal. Its pages told a harrowing tale of lost souls, vengeful spirits, and a forbidden ritual that had condemned his ancestors. The curse had been born out of a forbidden love affair between Elena, his great-grandmother, and a mysterious figure named Victor. Their passion had ignited a wrathful spirit, forever binding their descendants to the basement. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Valerio knew he had to find a way to break the curse before it consumed him as well. With newfound determination, he pored over the journal, searching for a solution. As he delved deeper into the text, Valerio discovered an ancient ritual buried within the pages. It spoke of an incantation and a ritualistic offering that could appease the restless spirits and break the curse once and for all. Armed with this newfound knowledge, Valerio prepared himself for the ritual. He gathered the necessary ingredients, carefully recited the incantation, and offered a heartfelt plea for forgiveness and release. A powerful gust of wind swept through the basement, extinguishing the candles that had lit the room. The darkness seemed to recede, and the oppressive presence lifted. Valerio held his breath, waiting for a sign that the curse had finally been broken. Just as he began to lose hope, a soft glow enveloped the basement. It emanated from a hidden corner, illuminating a small wooden box covered in dust. Valerio approached it cautiously and opened it, revealing a faded photograph of his great-grandmother Elena, her eyes filled with warmth and love. With tears in his eyes, Valerio knew that the curse had been lifted. The spirits had found their peace, and his family could finally be free from the darkness that had plagued them for so long. As he ascended the basement stairs, Valerio carried with him the weight of his family's history, but also a newfound sense of liberation and closure. The secrets of the basement were no longer bound to the shadows, and he would ensure that they remained so. From that day forward, the basement became a place of healing and reflection for Valerio. It served as a reminder of the power of forgiveness and the importance of confronting one's past. The secrets that once haunted his family had been transformed into lessons, shaping his present and guiding his future. And as Valerio closed the door to the basement, he knew that the darkness within had been replaced by a glimmer of hope, a testament to his courage and determination to uncover the truth, no matter how terrifying it may have been. equals 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 equals. Jack had always been curious about the basement of his old Victorian house. It was a dark and eerie place, with a heavy wooden door that creaked ominously whenever it was opened. The previous owners had always kept it locked, claiming that it was simply a storage space for old belongings. But Jack couldn't shake off the feeling that there was something more to it. One stormy night, as the rain poured down outside, Jack's curiosity got the better of him. Armed with a flashlight and a set of keys he had found in the attic, he made his way to the basement door. His heart raced with a mix of excitement and apprehension as he inserted the key into the lock. With a loud click, the door swung open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Jack took a deep breath and stepped inside, his flashlight illuminating the damp stone walls and cobweb-laden corners. The air was heavy with a musty odor, and he could hear the faint sound of water dripping somewhere in the distance. As he descended deeper into the basement, Jack noticed a peculiar symbol etched into the wall. It was a circle with intricate patterns and seemed to pulsate with an otherworldly energy. He couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. Pushing aside his unease, he pressed on, his curiosity urging him forward. At the far end of the basement, Jack discovered a hidden chamber concealed behind an ancient bookshelf. The chamber was filled with old, dusty tomes and peculiar artifacts. One particular book caught his eye, a weathered leather-bound volume with faded gold lettering. Jack carefully opened it, revealing pages filled with cryptic symbols and incantations. As he perused the book, Jack's eyes widened in disbelief. It contained instructions for summoning and binding otherworldly entities. The more he read, the more he realized the sinister nature of the basement. This was no ordinary storage space. It was a place of dark magic and unspeakable secrets. Jack had always been curious about the basement of his old Victorian house. It was a dark and eerie place, with a heavy wooden door that creaked ominously whenever it was opened. The previous owners had always kept it locked, claiming that it was simply a storage space for old belongings. But Jack couldn't shake off the feeling that there was something more to it. One stormy night, as the rain poured down outside, Jack's curiosity got the better of him. Armed with a flashlight and a set of keys he had found in the attic, he made his way to the basement door. His heart raced with a mix of excitement and apprehension as he inserted the key into the lock. With a loud click, the door swung open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Jack took a deep breath and stepped inside, his flashlight illuminating the damp stone walls and cobweb-laden corners. The air was heavy with a musty odor, and he could hear the faint sound of water dripping somewhere in the distance. As he descended deeper into the basement, Jack noticed a peculiar symbol etched into the wall. It was a circle with intricate patterns and seemed to pulsate with an otherworldly energy. He couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. Pushing aside his unease, he pressed on, his curiosity urging him forward. At the far end of the basement, Jack discovered a hidden chamber concealed behind an ancient bookshelf. The chamber was filled with old, dusty tomes and peculiar artifacts. One particular book caught his eye, a weathered leather-bound volume with faded gold lettering. Jack carefully opened it, revealing pages filled with cryptic symbols and incantations. As he perused the book, Jack's eyes widened in disbelief. It contained instructions for summoning and binding otherworldly entities. The more he read, the more he realized the sinister nature of the basement. This was no ordinary storage space. It was a place of dark magic and unspeakable secrets. Just as Jack was about to leave the basement, his flashlight flickered, then died completely. Panic washed over him as he found himself surrounded by pitch-black darkness. A voice echoed in his mind, whispering ancient words he couldn't comprehend. The air grew colder, and he felt a presence drawing closer. Jack stumbled backward, desperately searching for the staircase. His hand brushed against the symbol on the wall, and a surge of energy shot through him. In that moment, the basement seemed to come alive. Shadows danced and twisted around him, and he could hear faint whispers growing louder. With a final burst of adrenaline, Jack found the staircase and sprinted up, slamming the basement door shut behind him. The house fell silent once more, as if nothing had happened. Jack leaned against the door, gasping for breath, grateful to have escaped whatever malevolent force lurked below. But deep down, he knew that the basement's secrets would continue to haunt him. The dark magic he had stumbled upon was not something to be taken lightly, and he couldn't shake off the feeling that his curiosity had unleashed something far beyond his comprehension. Jack couldn't shake off the eerie encounter in the basement. The knowledge he had stumbled upon weighed heavily on his mind. He spent restless nights haunted by nightmares and waking hours consumed by thoughts of the dark magic lurking beneath his own home. He knew he had to uncover the truth and find a way to protect himself from the malevolent force he had inadvertently awakened. Driven by a newfound determination, Jack delved into research about occult practices, ancient symbols, and protective rituals. He sought out books, consulted experts, and scoured the depths of the internet for any information that could help him understand and confront the dark forces residing in the basement. As he delved deeper into his investigations, Jack discovered a local historian who specialized in the history of his Victorian house and the surrounding area. The historian, Professor Reynolds, had dedicated years to studying the occult and the supernatural occurrences tied to the region. Jack knew he had to seek the professor's guidance. Arranging a meeting, Jack presented his findings and shared his own harrowing experience. Professor Reynolds listened intently, his eyes widening with each detail. He confirmed Jack's suspicions that the basement was indeed a place of dark magic, with a history that dated back centuries. According to the professor, the previous owners of the house had been members of a secret society dabbling in forbidden arts. They had used the basement as a gateway to unleash dark entities into the world. However, their rituals had gone awry, leading to the society's downfall, and the sealing of the basement to contain the evil within. Jack felt a sense of relief knowing that his suspicions were not unfounded, but he also realized the danger he was in. Professor Reynolds explained that the symbols in the basement were a key part of the binding spell that kept the malevolent force contained. By stumbling upon the basement and disrupting the seal, Jack had inadvertently weakened the barrier and allowed the dark entity to stir. Determined to make things right, Jack and Professor Reynolds devised a plan. They would embark on a quest to find the lost artifacts needed to restore the seal and contain the malevolent force once again. The artifacts were scattered across the region, hidden in obscure locations tied to the house's dark history. Their journey took them through forgotten graveyards, ancient ruins, and eerie abandoned houses. They encountered cryptic puzzles, encountered dangerous obstacles, and faced supernatural threats along the way. Each step brought them closer to their goal, but also deeper into the clutches of the malevolent force that sought to escape its confinement. As Jack and Professor Reynolds gathered the final artifact, they returned to the Victorian house, ready to restore the seal and put an end to the dark magic once and for all. They descended into the basement, their hearts pounding with a mix of fear and determination. With the artifacts in hand, they began the intricate process of restoring the seal. Their hands moved with precision, their voices reciting incantations learned from ancient texts. The symbols on the walls glowed with renewed power as the seal grew stronger. But just as they were about to complete the ritual, the malevolent force surged forth, its presence engulfing the basement. Shadows writhed and twisted, and an unearthly wail echoed through the chamber. Jack and Professor Reynolds stood their ground, channeling their collective willpower into the final steps of the ritual. A blinding light erupted from the symbols, driving back the darkness. The force recoiled, its power weakened by the restored seal. With a final surge of energy, the seal was complete, trapping the malevolent entity once again. As the basement fell into silence, Jack and Professor Reynolds breathed a sigh of relief. They had succeeded in their mission, but the weight of their encounter would forever linger in their memories. They knew they had faced something ancient and malevolent, and the darkness would always be a part of them. Jack sealed off the basement, never to venture there again. He had learned the price of curiosity and the dangers of meddling with forces beyond comprehension. And though the house stood in silence, its secrets buried within, Jack couldn't help but wonder if there were other basements out there, waiting to unleash their own horrors upon the unsuspecting souls who dared to delve into their depths.